Nikki and I'm the CEO at the International Bomber Command Centre here just outside Lincoln. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Flying Officer Arthur Sidney Woolf, Légion d'honneur. Age 14, Arthur was working in the Friendly Workmen's Society as an office boy, but his older brother was off flying with the RAF, and at 17, Arthur followed in his footsteps and signed up. He was posted to 630 Squadron at East Kirkby after training as a wireless operator and air gunner. And his crew really demonstrate the international aspect of Bomber Command. So there were 2 Canadians, 2 Americans and 3 British, although in his words one of those was actually Welsh. On their 16th operation on the night of the 24th of July 44, they were hit by a night fighter just over the border of France and Germany. And 2 of their engines were severely damaged and they started losing height. And initially the pilot gave the order to dump the bombs and to try and turn from home, but unfortunately the speed at which they were losing altitude was too great, and so he gave the order to bail. Unfortunately, Arthur had been hit in the hip during the night fighter attack and was bleeding heavily, lost consciousness and came out of the bomb doors. It's worth mentioning that 2 of his crew didn't survive at all. The 2 gunners were both killed in that. He came to, when on the ground, to the sound of foreign voices, and fortunately for him they were French, and it was a French couple who owned a farmhouse, and they very carefully carried him with his shattered femur to their farmhouse and looked after him overnight, but his injuries were too severe for them to deal with, so the gendarme came, and then finally the Germans came, and he was taken to a hospital in Nancy, where they put him in traction and in a big plaster. And he was there when they started evacuating. And he and 3 other patients and a French doctor who'd been captured were left behind, locked in a cellar. They were there 11 days before the Americans found them and freed them, by which time the plaster had been too tight and the leg was very badly infected and had gangrene. And it was decided that the only option was to ship him back to the UK. So they evacuated him and they got him back to a hospital in the UK. And when they assessed him, they decided that the only course of action was to put him in a specialist unit at East Grinstead, which was headed up by the now famous Archie McIndoe. Archibald was famous for the work that he did with plastic surgery in particular. It is just his work that meant that after 15 months, Arthur was able to leave that hospital with his leg intact, slightly shorter than it had been before, but intact and usable. Arthur felt a huge debt of gratitude to both Archie and his team, but also to the French couple who really put an awful lot at risk to save him, and he kept in touch with them for many years. Sadly, that's as far as we can go with Arthur's story, because he passed away on the 7th of April this year. But the fact that we've kept his story alive on the digital archive is his legacy.